right. Hey, welcome to the live webinar today. I'm super excited to have Scott Trench with us today. He's a personal finance enthusiast and the CEO of BiggerPockets Money, and also the author of the New York best-selling book, Set for Life. So, Scott, welcome to the show. We're thankful you're here with us today.
Shane, super excited and grateful to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. So to start off with, Scott, for those people who aren't part of the BiggerPockets Money community, maybe just share a little bit about the journey with BiggerPockets Money, your mission, and what you're accomplishing with your platform.
Awesome. Yeah. So, just a quick background. I was the CEO of BiggerPockets for about 8 years, and I've been with BiggerPockets for about 11 years. BiggerPockets is a real estate investing focused organization, but I would say my passion has always been financial independence, the ability to retire early. And real estate, I got attracted to BiggerPockets originally because I thought real estate was a great way to hack my housing and live for free. So I lived in a dumpy duplex for like 7 years in a row, essentially one after another, to try to build up a real estate portfolio and keep my housing costs low. But that was in pursuit of the broader goal of financial independence and early retirement. And so about 3-4 years into my journey at BiggerPockets, I convinced our founder, Josh, to allow me to write a book, which I probably had no business writing. And that was this book you referenced there, Set for Life. And to begin a podcast called BiggerPockets Money, which would not focus on real estate, but would focus on financial independence. And that has been kind of like, it was like almost like a side project for me for those last 7 years at BiggerPockets. And I'm thrilled that it's now my full-time effort here. And at BiggerPockets Money, we just tell the stories of people who are pursuing or have achieved financial independence. The goal in our community is less about maximizing long-term net worth or getting past, I would say few of the members of the community are really looking for net worth past $10 million, for example. The vast majority are looking for something between $1 and $5 million in net worth. And their goal is Tuesday, as we describe it. They want to spend Tuesday not working, at the park, out in the mountains, on a hike, at the beach, traveling the world or whatever. And so we try to enable that and go into the very intermediate, high school, college, maybe graduate degree level personal finance needed to achieve that early in life. So long-winded answer, a way of describing what we do at BiggerPockets Money.
That's so cool, Scott. And it's interesting, like this little side project, so as to speak, Set for Life, has become it's become a very popular book in the FIRE community. And for those who don't know what FIRE means, it's financial independence, retire early. And it's a really growing community, right, Scott? I mean, this is a community that's really taking off and making a name for itself, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think that signs of the growth are the huge Reddit, FIRE, Facebook communities out there, like Choosify, like our Facebook community. The growing number of acronyms and people who say, I don't want that version of FIRE, I want this one, out there, that folks are beginning to splinter it into. So it's a really wonderful thing. And we were actually talking about this a while back, but I've observed that there's this kind of sentiment of like, hey, shouldn't technology be adding to the leisure of everyday people, especially wealthy Americans or especially Americans over long periods of time? Well, that is starting to happen, but only for the people who amass wealth and begin to and build portfolios capable of actually spending that down. And I think that that's the pull that a lot of people have. And I think more and more people will go on to achieve this goal or some version of it in the coming decades. I think it's going to just be a rapidly expanding market. And I think that, long-term trends like AI, for example, are only going to help continue to accelerate that, the ability for more and more people to achieve some version of this.
Yeah, that's super. I'm so excited about this conversation because, like, as you look at the FIRE community, there's two ways to get ahead: earn more or spend less, right? And you're right. Most of the technologies that have to do with wealth accumulation are for the wealthy, but there's not that many. When you look at the demographic, the percentages, there's not that many that fit in that demographic, although it's growing, as we've kind of talked before. Kind of share with us, if you would, like, what are the attributes that you see for people that are succeeding with money? And perhaps some of the things that are a struggle for those that you see that aren't so much.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the kind of four building blocks of wealth creation, right? Which is, you have to do some combination of the following to build wealth. You have to spend less, earn more, invest, or create. So you are a creator, right? You're a relatively rare bird in the world in the world of in the world of folks pursuing this journey. But I would say that the problem people face is that they're using the wrong lever at the wrong time. Right. So many people who start the journey to financial independence are already working the job or pursuing the opportunity that pays them the most. Right. It's very hard for if someone could go out and get a $35,000 raise next week, they generally would do it. And so a lot of folk, the first thing that you can control is your spending. And the first thing inside of that spending is your discretionary spending. Over time, more powerful levers like moving or getting a new vehicle, for example, make a smarter choice in a vehicle, can really make monumental compounding gains for somebody, or switching careers or pursuing some sort of high income job. And then as your wealth grows, your investment portfolio and decisions you make there begin to make much more meaningful contributions to your wealth than even your earned income or day-to-day spending decisions. But that first step for so many is controlling spending. And also, because we're talking about Qube right now, I'll say another component where spending is super important. It's important throughout the entire journey, but another area where we're starting to realize it's very important is towards the end of the FIRE journey, where we're knowing that you're going to stay inside of a certain band of spend. You're going to never go above a ceiling is absolutely critical to the traditional retirement math that many early retirees, members of the FIRE community, depend on, right? My portfolio sustains $10,000 a month in spending. Well, how sure am I that I'm going to actually spend $10,000? 10,000 is a common, 8,500, 400 is a very common target. $100,000 a year is a very common target for spend for our community members. And so that's another really key use case that I'm another one of the reasons I'm excited to work with you.
Yeah, that's super neat. And really, they're working towards creating a passive income that funds that $8,500. But if you could live on $6,000, that just changed that $2,500 a month. Now you're still free because, and you're able to spend money in a way that still aligns with your values and goals. It's just really focused on the things that matter most, which I think that's super cool. As we were talking this morning before the call, you shared some demographics that I think are really interesting to show what is happening to the wealth in our country, and it's like one of the things I think that's very powerful about BiggerPockets Money is the data that you guys have been able to collect and what is happening in the world around us. Do you mind sharing some of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen. So one of my favorite things to do, because I'm such a nerd. I don't know, can everyone see the screen right now?
Yeah,
it's just to poll our community about various questions here. And there's random stuff sprinkled in here as well. But what some of the reasons, and there's a lot of great data here. I guess some highlights that I'll chime in here is this one here, right? Even among I'll call us hardcore or maybe first adopter style community members of a product like Qube, there's a relative inability to comply with a budget, at least in terms of how folks kind of personally identify with that. I am one of these people, right? I would kind of call myself a medium or low in terms of compliance with my personal budget. And I run a podcast on personal financial responsibility with my basically full-time efforts here, right? Like this is a challenge I think that pursues people across their life here. And then another, there's just also a bunch of other fun data here, like here, how much cash do people hold, and as we were exploring the partnership with you guys, we like to ask have you heard of Qube, for example. But we've got a whole host of data here on our users. Which tax advantaged account do you max out first? And this allows me to do, both market research, but also explore kind of hard questions in the personal finance space. So for example, this is one that's been bugging me, right? Is the whole point of FIRE is to build up a net worth position that you can actually use to spend down your money. But when I ask people, have you ever sold a stock, any asset ever in your life, taken the sale proceeds and used it to finance spending in your life? And the answer is overwhelmingly no. Um, and so that's like a fun, like, well, what are we doing here? Like, that's the whole point, right? But we've never done it. I mean, I get that many folks are in the accumulation phase still, but still, that's a big problem. And that opened up broader questions around how retirees, or especially early retirees, find it very difficult to actually spend money there. So a whole bunch of fun data that we can kind of go over in this community, and we're learning more new things every day. That community is very generous with the anonymized feedback they give us.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, Scott, why? Why do you think that people are so hesitant to sell like the assets that they've built for income? Yeah, in the end, why do you think that is?
Well, I think that the problem is that you spend, if you're in the, by the way, one more fun data point here, and then I'll answer that question. Sorry. I asked if I should come back from parental leave with a fully grown out money mustache, and got a large, very positive response. And then,
The
when
mustache, right?
Yeah, when I came back, it was take it off, please. So but anyways, why is it that people find? I think it's because the journey for a typical person pursuing FIRE is a decades-long one, right? 7 to 15 years at least is probably that where folks begin to approach that number and begin asking questions like, do I really want to leave my job here? And it starts with frugality. So people are very conscious with their spending at first, and really focusing on these areas. Then there's a grind, like 7 to 10 years go by, 15 years, and there's a slow march of maybe promotions at work and life going in there, and one's brain is trained over that period of time to amass wealth. And as you start achieving that goal, I think it can be very hard to flip the script from I'm accumulating to I'm now actually going to enjoy my Tuesday afternoon. This has been a very hard transition for me as I've gone from the overwhelming workload of a CEO. I mean, coordinating with your schedule. Oh, I'm on a plane now. I'm going over here. That was my life for a long time. It's a slow process to kind of unwind from that intensity that I think goes along with the journey. And then all of these things shift, right? The focus on the 50+ hour weeks to accumulate, to earn income, the disciplined spending, and then of course the aggressive, high risk tolerance investing styles that go along with that journey. So all those things I think combine to make it very hard for folks to unwind and actually begin seeing their net worth stabilize or even go down, which is totally fine for most folks, but from a mathematical standpoint, but totally unacceptable from a psychological standpoint.
Yeah, it is. That's that habit of accumulation it's real. That mindset, right? It's pretty powerful. That's actually a conversation we could have a whole conversation about that alone, which would be very fascinating. So, Scott, you and your wife have started using Qube, and you might just share with our audience like how it's been for you and what like you're seeing from that experience, and how you're integrating it in with your personal finance plan that you already have in place, because obviously you have been intentional and you have moved forward with your finances. So anyways, you might just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll even go back like 6 months to a year ago. I'm sitting here. I'm in the CEO seat, and I'm earning a very high income, and the business is growing for a very long time, and so and it's very demanding, right? This is like it's very hard to find time. Time is much more valuable to me in that particular phase of life than money, and so the spending. There's no reason to constrain the spending, right? It's almost like if I'm spending time doing my lawn or maintaining my lawn or cleaning the house, that is very valuable time that could be going to growing the business or just spending time with my family or doing something to relax in that component. So it was a uniquely privileged and perhaps hard to relate to scenario, but that was my reality for at that point in time. And as things changed over the last six months, and I stepped down as CEO, that habit continued, right, of doing those things, even though there was changes in the way that and it's not like I have to be very frugal. I just have to set a ceiling on my spending, and I have to comply with that ceiling, and there not can be a high ceiling. And so that's what I think what we were most excited about with Qube. And just we're still continuing to get to fully ramp all of our spending into Qube. We've probably got about half to 2/3 of our spending now going through Qube on a regular basis. We still have a couple of bills to transfer over, tracking down logins and those kinds of things in there. And occasionally you still use the credit card for a couple of purchases. But again, hope to fully get ramped into using it there. But I would say benefits, we've already saved hundreds of dollars just this month. And it goes for little things like, my wife and I both have a personal spending Qube that we just that's where we make discretionary purchases out of. And just lumping, oh, this is a discretionary purchase for me and this is for the family, makes me just choose a little bit cheaper thing. So I have a little bit more towards the end of the month to spend, if I want it at that point in time. Another big one has been Amazon, which I think there's a little learning curve to learning how to use the Amazon Qube in particular. And once you understand it, it's like, oh, that's why they set it up that way. That's very smart. And the other day, what we set that up, there was 5 dings on and Qube rejected all of them. And I was like, I don't know what any of those were. My wife didn't know what any of those were. We're like, good grief, what is going on? That was like $85 right there. We made the whole year, a whole first year back in fee in the first year there, back there in that one day. Now, one of those might be a subscription that we'll try to watch on Prime or whatever at some point. We'll add that back. But that's one example of the power that we've already begun to experience from Qube so far.
Wow, that's super, super awesome. It's when you said, as CEO, you're very busy. I have a nugget for you. Just have a bunch of kids and they'll do all the housework. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that's what I've done. But then you got a whole another workload on feeding those mouths and taking care of those. But
oh yeah, our 2-year-old really helps with all the chores around the house.
Yeah, that's an age group that doesn't do much, huh? But yeah, no, that's super awesome. I just my wife and I, it's so interesting because I lived a similar story as you, Scott, where I was helping people with money, yet I was out swiping the credit card and earning the rewards and doing all that stuff and trying to figure out how we were going to make ends meet, And it's super cool how Qube has created this consciousness and this ease of consciousness, actually, that has really created peace and just a way forward that we feel in control. You know what I mean? Which is super nice. It's super, super nice. Well, that's super cool. Thanks for sharing that. So as you look at this for the fire community, obviously you've chosen to partner up with Qube Money, and you might just share the philosophy that you have with BiggerPockets Money for the future and how you're putting these partnerships together and why you're choosing the companies that you're choosing. Yeah, and the value that you want to bring from these partnerships to the community.
Yeah, so I'd say that the philosophy that we're trying, what we would love to work towards, and the long-term goal is to have a handful of partners, like 5, 7, maybe as many as 10. I think that would be a stretch over the long term, and to say who is actually aligned with what we're doing here at BiggerPockets Money. What are we using or willing to use as deep integrated products with our personal lives, me and Mindy Jensen, my co-host of BiggerPockets Money. And how do we have long-term partnerships with those folks so that the entire audience knows about those products and and knows what their value could be. And we're not having, more of the random, the stuff that can still be valuable, but this is not really why people are tuning into BiggerPockets Money to listen, watch, or self-educate on. And that's the idea. And so what we'd love to do is really find aligned products and services and again, drive that awareness. Like, right, I think I showed you that very few people, I think 4% of BiggerPockets Money listeners are aware of Qube. That's crazy. By the end of our first few months, that number should jump double or triple in terms of that, or more in terms of that. And over a long-term engagement, it should be reversed, right? Where 95% plus know about Qube and our partnership in there. And that's what I feel like our job to do is, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to offer the content for free, right? Like there's no like folks need to help us produce these shows. We need to make sure that that they're coming out every week and that we're continuing to get better. And so that's the way we're able to do that, is through these partnerships, and that's the way we can help our partners and our audience grow together in a pretty synergistic way. So that's the idea, and that's the goal. And I feel very excited about that opportunity, and that's one of the reasons, why we are working with our partnership in the way that we've structured it.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're excited about that too, Scott. Super excited. Yeah. How big is the audience that you serve at this point? And I know that you guys are like BiggerPockets and then going to BiggerPockets Money, and like really there's so many people that are interested in this, being able to do whatever you want on Tuesday. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? I mean, so it's a super engaging reason to be a part of it.
Sure. Yeah. So our YouTube audience will see anywhere from 5,000 views on the low end for a new video that we release in the first week or so, to 30,000 in that period, with an average of about 15,000 in the first 7 days or so after the release of a new video. Our podcast has seen about 25 to 30,000 downloads in the first 7 days following a release of a new episode. As well. And then we have about 60,000 folks that have joined our mailing list to receive our newsletter, which is a fun one. So that's kind of where we're at today. And the goal is, where we think our superpower is in the space is we Mindy and I are both experts in journeyman journeyman experts, I guess is the right word, perpetual students in that world of fire, but we're by no means like the inventor or master of a specific concept, right? Like for example, there's really good research out there on retirement drawdown portfolios, and what I think is so awesome and so privileged about our opportunity and our job in this space is we know these folks, right? Bill Bengen will come on our podcast and talk about the original research he did that pioneered a lot of work in the space, right? Mr. Money Mustache, a pioneer in the field, has been on the show several times. And so we don't have to we can continue to learn from the best and aggregate really cool mental models from the best people in the world that have studied these subjects, and compile them, and then of course begin to build on them just incrementally by connecting various dots. And that's the fun thing. And I think that's what our superpower will be, what we can bring uniquely into the financial independence community is making this available for free to folks, and continuing to build on things, ask the hard questions, and explore the new unlocks. Every once in a while, I'll push buttons on that front. Like, for example, there was a little bit of a controversy a month or two ago when I was discussing the apparent incongruity of everybody talking about this 4% rule withdrawal style portfolio and nobody actually being able to bring themselves to sell stocks to actually retire, for example. I think it's a hard question in the space that we want to explore. And I think that's what we can bring to bear in the community. And I think that's why folks tune in on a regular basis. And I also think, the reality is like, we're not some masters with money that are superpowers, all this stuff. Like you just heard me say, I had trouble complying with my own budget, and we're going to BPCon later this year. And it's in Vegas, and I'll be at the craps table, and I run a podcast on personal responsibility, like I mentioned. So there's a human element to all this stuff, I think.
There is. Oh man, it's amazing how emotional money is.
Yeah.
It's just so part of how we respond every day. And it really is. It's funny when you get like a handle on money, you kind of get a handle on life, because it's like something that is paying for what you're doing on a daily basis, right? Mm-hmm. And so it creates some structure for life, whatever that structure may be, right? So it's interesting. So as you guys, what are your plans? How do you plan to promote Qube like I was pretty excited when you talked about like just to share your personal journey, you and your wife's personal journey, and using like, and how do you plan to do that on the podcast?
Yeah, so I think that, first it's about just sharing that journey. So, so I'm looking forward to. I've already saved several $100. I believe
Yeah.
by the midpoint of my journey, within a month or two, that number will move to a couple thousand. So sharing that. Mindy's going through a similar journey with shifting her spending to fully using Qube as well. So I think that'll be a fun one to share. I think the setup piece will be interesting. We've recently done a few setup videos, where how to set up like a retirement portfolio using Fidelity, for example, will be a fun component of the journey. We've left some of these open-ended in our partnership to a certain degree, so that we can explore with what works and what doesn't, in these things, and really just focus on helping Qube reach the people that are most interested. But that's one that I'm particularly interested to explore. Those videos are fun. They take like 3-4 hours to fully set up, and then
Yeah.
present simply in like a 30-minute delivery to here's how to actually set it up step by step. With those, we plan to have you or Matthew come on and talk about the philosophy behind Qube, and like I can kind of learn what folks find value in and what they don't, and kind of iterate from there.
Yeah, that's so awesome. One of the unique things that I found out about Scott is he actually uses a budgeting app, Monarch, and he uses Qube because he sees a very different like value add for those. You might just kind of share how you see that, and like you also kind of talked about how you're going to position this for people that are like hardcore, that really like are striving to reach this buyer status where they can do what they want with their time.
Yeah. So Monarch Money is kind of, I view it as like my personal financial statement almost, right? It has a historical record of transactions.
Yeah.
Obviously Qube does that as well, but it also has my investment portfolio, my home value, my car's value, those types of things. And I can do that in a spreadsheet, or I can do that with a product like Monarch, like Empower, like formerly Personal Capital or Mint.com. There's a variety of tools that serve that purpose. Monarch is a good one. There's other ones out there that are good as well. In there, and that's very valuable in giving me a snapshot of where I'm at. But it has done nothing for me in compliance with my budget. It shows me how much I spend every month, but it does not actually help me stay within those guardrails, because there's no real barrier to not spending the extra money. There's a red bar on one of my budget line items. And so that I think the most powerful thing about Qube is when you look at like ways to change behavior in any part of your life, right? Whether it's working out or whatever, you got to make doing that behavior easier. Or if you want to stop doing a behavior, you got to make it a little harder. And Qube does not make it very hard to spend money, but you do have to go into the app, look at how much is left in your Qube, and click open. And that little thing just makes me mindful of the spending every single time. That's something that I think is fundamentally different from a value proposition than Monarch. And Dan, I'm so glad you love the stash. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's super awesome. Well, I mean, in closing out, we've got a couple more minutes. Scott, any questions for me, or anything else that you want to share? And I don't mind if we go a few minutes over, but yeah, anyways, anything on your mind, Scott?
Well, yeah, I guess I would love to hear, in terms of the BiggerPockets Money community, we are surely more hardcore about money, right? Like people spend their time listening to us talk about money all day long, and saving, investing, and spending, rather than, the Philadelphia Eagles broadcast or whatever it is that they could be doing there. So I would say we're more hardcore. And to me, that was the attraction of Qube is it's a little, I almost consider it a little bit more of a hardcore budgeting app, a way to ensure compliance with my budget. But you talk about on the homepage, mindfulness around spending in there. And maybe you could share some of the thoughts there, and how, whether that, should I be thinking about this as a hardcore budgeting app for some folks, and why do you refer to it as a mindfulness component?
Yeah, that's a great question. So through the market research that we have done, um, the majority of people don't like the word budget. They feel like it's restrictive. They feel like it is, I guess, always telling them no and giving them a negative feeling. Yet everyone wants to spend money in a way that aligns with their values and goals. Like, and not everyone knows those values and goals, but as they understand their genuine purpose for money and what they want money to accomplish for them, and then they get in line with spending it according to that, that's where real fulfillment and joy comes. And that messaging serves those that are struggling with, low credit scores and trying to get anything in savings, and they're always feeling behind the ball, to those people that are making their payments but they don't seem like they're getting ahead, to the people that are saving regularly but not saving enough to feel so that they feel confident with retirement. That demographic that I just talked about is really 80% of America, right?
Hmm.
But then you have the people that have built wealth, and they are in the upper class, that are struggling even with knowing, like, what value do they bring into the world anymore? What was this all about? And as they gain a perspective of really what they're passionate about and begin to utilize money to pursue that passion, again, it creates a lot of reward. It creates a lot of direction to their life. And then you have those retirees that are worried about running out of money. And again, that all comes down to if they have a clear spending plan, and that spending plan aligns with what they really want to accomplish in life, it creates fulfillment. So, anyways, the whole gamut of people that messaging serves. But one of the things I love about this partnership with BiggerPockets Money is you are working with the hardcore, like, let's get this done, this done as fast as possible, because I want the autonomy to control my time, and I
Hmm.
want to do whatever I want to do. And so, like, being able to have those tight rails, and, like, very specific dollar amounts for categories, and living by that is the fastest way that I know of to get to that end goal of being able to do whatever you want on Tuesday. So anyway, so I love your approach in it being a hardcore, like, this is going to give me the purpose and the direction that I want with my money, and keep both my spouse and we're both empowered to spend from it. We both have the app. We both see clearly, and let's make this happen. And I think that's kind of actually how I am, Scott. And when I finally, like, we got a product up and running and started using Qube, my wife and I have been saving 30% of our income. And actually, it's going up 40-50% of our income, because we have goals. And man, it's so fun to watch the savings account and the investment accounts grow, and feel the stress go down, that I'm not worried about every dollar, and where it's going. So anyways, I love your approach to that.
Awesome. Well, can I ask one more question before we're?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we kind of talked about this briefly a while back, but I wanted to kind of get a two-part kind of question here. One, I guess I'll phrase it like this: I am I'm a little bit higher of a spender, so I'm actually going to set myself a high ceiling with Qube. I'm still going to spend a lot, but I'm just going to, again, keep myself within those limits.
Yeah.
And two-part question here. One is, tell me about the new benefits with the new banking relationship and how that will help set up go more smoothly, because I actually, this is so embarrassing, but I had trouble transferring money into Qube fast enough to actually move over to my new budget in the first few days on that front. And then second, I'm probably going to benefit much more than your typical customer who is maybe spending a few thousand, but less than $5,000 a month, for example, because the savings will, because the complexity of my situation and the way that this will put guardrails around it will help me save thousands of dollars potentially per month, maybe tens of thousands per year. So how will you make more money off of from a business perspective off of a customer like me?
Yeah.
In that world.
Great questions. So the first one is the new banking relationship is going to facilitate us to be able to integrate instant money movement with Visa Direct, so that you'll be able to transfer up to $100,000 instantly and much more securely than ACH. So everyone's saying, "Yay!" I mean, that's amazing, right? And so that alone is going to make a massive impact on the early experience with Qube. And I don't know if there's much more. And the other thing, that convenience thing, is the tap to pay card. Everyone will get a tap to pay card. So like just that convenience. So there's a lot of really, great convenience benefits that are going to come with the new bank relationship with them, which I'm so, like, Scott, I'm so excited about it. And it's something that in this environment that we've been in, the regulatory environment, it is not easy to find the right relationship and also to put that all together. So I'm really excited about that. But so, and then as far as like, how do we monetize the higher income people? And it's interesting because we make about 1% of the transaction volume. Like, we make more money off of those who spend more, that make the higher income. So that's kind of a cool thing. And obviously you don't pay for that. The businesses that you frequent pay for that through the transaction fees on the for taking a card payment. So anyways, so we're able to keep a standard subscription for everyone that is very easy and reasonable, but increase our monetization through the interchange, which is pretty cool.
Awesome, fascinating. I'm always fascinated by how businesses grow and thrive with that, because the CEO brain never shuts off. So.
Yeah, I get that totally. I totally get that. Well, okay, so we have, this has been super awesome, Scott. Man, thank you. Like, this has been very insightful. I am more than over the moon excited about this partnership and what the possibilities are in the future as both of us grow together. And I'm very excited to serve the fire community, to help millions of people to set them free. Our mission is to set people free. And I know that that's your mission too. And we want people to thrive, to live abundant lives all along that journey, because they feel in control and feel purposeful about what they're doing. And I believe that that's what creates fulfillment. That's what creates fulfillment for me. So anyways, thanks for being on here with us. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we go, it looks like 5 people have the same question about the bank, which is also my question. Is will we get a new debit card if we are already existing customers? And
yes.
Isn't that how that work?
Yeah. So the way that will work is through the I guess the onboarding experience. We've really structured this out to be very beautiful. Sarab has done an incredible job, and morale. But you will start the transition process, and that start will be us sending you the card. And then once you get the card, then you'll notify. There will be an ability to notify that in the app. And when you do that, that will transition the money instantly to the new bank. And so your card will be ready to use. It'll be in the hand. So when you set your PIN and notifies that you have the card, that will initiate the transition of the spending side. And then with your bills, you'll actually be able to, there's kind of a wizard that you'll transition each one of those bills over time. And we encourage you to do that quickly, but it'll let you know, hey, this bill is due, transition this so that it makes sure that the payment goes through, kind of a deal.
So. Awesome. And it sounds like this will be in a few months, maybe even a little sooner than that. And there will be a big announcement, very clear instructions on how to set everything up and move all over to those things. And we'll have all the bells and whistles that you'd want with a banking.
That's right. There's going to be live webinars to help people make the transition. There's going to be a whole string of emails, whole string of app notifications. So this has all been designed, and like we have been working tirelessly on this for several months.
Almost like this has been a big project for you.
Yeah, it's been huge. So anyways, all right. With that, thanks so much for being with us, everyone. And we've got some exciting events coming up that love for you to be a part of. Scott, this has been super great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane. Really excited about this. Really appreciate being here today.
Yep. All right. We'll see you later.